Ever wondered what really happens inside your car's engine when you decide to skip an oil change? You know, the car still starts, it still drives fine, and everything seems okay. It's easy to think, what's the big deal? But underneath that smooth-running facade, a slow and silent disaster is beginning to unfold. Skipping just one oil change sets off a chain reaction that can seriously shorten the life of your engine. Engine oil is like the lifeblood of your car. It lubricates all those fast-moving parts, keeps things cool, cleans up the gunk, and protects everything from rust and corrosion. Fresh oil is a superhero, doing all of this perfectly. But old, degraded oil, it's a villain in disguise, slowly losing its power to protect your engine. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into what really happens, step by step, when you neglect your oil changes, from the first signs of trouble all the way to catastrophic failure. So, let's start with a healthy engine. When the oil is fresh, it flows like a dream. It creates a super thin, protective film between all the crucial metal parts. We're talking about crankshaft bearings, camshafts, piston rings, and cylinder walls. This tiny layer of oil is the only thing preventing these parts from grinding against each other, which would cause instant and massive wear. The oil also acts like a sponge, soaking up heat from deep inside the engine and carrying away tiny bits of dirt and debris to the oil filter. It's a tough job, but fresh oil is up to the task. But as you drive, your engine gets hot, really hot. It's a high-pressure, high-stress environment. The oil is constantly being bombarded with heat, pressure, and all the nasty byproducts of combustion. Over thousands of miles, this intense environment starts to break down the oil molecules. It gets contaminated with fuel, moisture, soot, and tiny metal particles. When you don't change the oil on schedule, all this contamination builds up way faster than the oil can handle. The very first thing to go wrong is the quality of lubrication. As the oil degrades, its viscosity, that's its thickness or flowiness, goes out of whack. It might get too thin, failing to create a strong protective film. Or it could get too thick, turning into a sludge that can't flow through the engine's narrow passageways. Either way, you've got a problem. The lubrication gets worse, and friction between moving parts starts to increase. This extra friction creates even more heat, which, you guessed it, makes the oil break down even faster. It's a vicious cycle. Bad oil leads to bad lubrication, which leads to more friction and heat, which makes the oil even worse. At this point, the damage is happening on a microscopic level, but it's happening, and it's permanent. Now, let's talk about the next major effect, increased engine wear. Think about it, the parts inside your engine are moving at incredible speeds, thousands of times per minute. They are completely dependent on that film of oil to keep them separated. When the lubrication gets weak, those metal surfaces start to make contact. It's like running without any cushioning in your shoes, but way worse. This contact causes scoring, scratching, and gradual wear on everything from bearings and journals to cam lobes and cylinder walls. As this wear gets worse, the tight, precise clearances inside your engine start to increase. Bearings become loose, piston rings don't seal as well as they used to, and your oil pressure starts to drop. And lower oil pressure means, you guessed it, even less lubrication and even more wear. This is why a car that has had its oil changes neglected often develops a low oil pressure problem over time. The third big consequence is something truly nasty: sludge formation. Sludge is what you get when old, broken down oil mixes with all that dirt, moisture, and combustion gunk. It's a thick, black, sticky goo that builds up inside your engine. You'll find it caked under the valve covers, clogging up tiny oil passages, and sitting in a thick layer at the bottom of the oil pan. This sludge is a silent killer. It chokes the flow of oil, preventing it from reaching critical parts of the engine. When an oil passage gets partially blocked, some components might get just a little bit of oil, or worse, none at all. Sludge also acts like an insulator, trapping heat inside the engine and making it much harder to cool down. Once sludge starts to form, oil circulation becomes a mess, and engine damage accelerates like crazy. In the worst-case scenario, sludge can completely block the oil flow, causing immediate and total engine failure. And it's not just the engine itself that suffers, the oil filter gets overwhelmed too. Oil filters are designed to trap contaminants, but they can only hold so much. If you don't change the oil, the filter eventually fills up with debris and gets completely clogged. To prevent the engine from being starved of oil, most cars have a bypass valve. When the filter is blocked, this valve opens up and lets the oil flow around it. Sounds like a good safety feature, right? Well, it is, but it means that completely unfiltered oil is now circulating through your engine. This oil is a gritty soup of metal particles and abrasive debris. It's like sending liquid sandpaper directly to your engine's most sensitive components. This unfiltered oil dramatically speeds up engine wear, destroying bearings, camshafts, and cylinder walls at an alarming rate. Another major issue is overheating. Your car's coolant system does most of the heavy lifting when it comes to temperature control, but oil plays a vital, behind-the-scenes role. It's responsible for cooling internal parts that the coolant can't reach. Clean oil is great at absorbing heat from these super hot areas and carrying it away. Dirty, sludgy oil, on the other hand, doesn't flow well and can't transfer heat effectively. As a result, the internal temperature of your engine starts to climb. These elevated temperatures degrade the oil even more and put a ton of thermal stress on all the components. This kind of overheating can warp cylinder heads, damage head gaskets, and cause seals to fail, leading to permanent, expensive damage. You'll also notice a drop in performance. As wear increases and sludge builds up, your engine just can't work as efficiently. The piston rings might not seal properly anymore, allowing combustion gases to blow by. This leads to a loss of compression, which means less power. Modern engines also use clean oil to operate complex systems like variable valve timing. When dirty oil and sludge clog up the works, these systems can't function correctly. You might notice a rough idle, sluggish acceleration, and worse fuel economy. The scary part is that these problems usually creep up so slowly that you might not even notice them until the internal damage is already severe. And what about oil consumption? Well, that goes up too. When piston rings and valve seals are worn out, they allow oil to leak into the combustion chamber, where it gets burned along with the fuel. This is what causes that telltale blue smoke coming from the exhaust pipe, and it's why you might find yourself constantly topping off the oil. A lot of people think they can just keep adding fresh oil to fix the problem, but that doesn't work. The new oil gets contaminated by the old, dirty oil almost immediately, and the sludge just keeps on building. Plus, burning oil creates carbon deposits on your pistons, valves, and spark plugs, which can lead to misfires and even more performance problems. Now, we're getting into the really serious stuff, bearing failure. Your engine's bearings are under immense pressure and rely completely on that strong film of oil for protection. When oil pressure drops or the oil is full of abrasive contaminants, the bearings overheat and wear out incredibly fast. As the bearing material breaks down, it sheds tiny metal particles into the oil, which then circulate through the engine and cause even more damage. You might start to hear a knocking or tapping sound, especially when the engine is under load. Once your bearings start to go, major engine failure is usually just around the corner. This puts a huge strain on the oil pump. Trying to push thick, sludgy oil through a clogged engine is hard work. Debris can also clog the oil pickup screen, which is where the pump sucks oil from the pan, starving it right at the source. If the oil pump can't maintain proper pressure, lubrication fails everywhere. An oil pump failure can happen suddenly and will destroy an engine in a matter of seconds. The final, inevitable result of long-term neglect is catastrophic engine failure. This is the end of the road. Bearings seize up, pistons scrape and score the cylinder walls until they get stuck, and the crankshaft might lock up completely. The engine will stall and refuse to start. In the most dramatic cases, a connecting rod can break and literally punch a hole right through the side of the engine block. It is important to understand that this kind of disaster doesn't happen from missing one oil change by a few hundred miles. It's the result of repeated, long-term neglect. It's a slow death by 1,000 cuts. The most dangerous part of this whole process is how silent it is. By the time a warning light comes on or you hear a scary noise, the damage is usually already extensive and expensive. Regular oil changes are genuinely one of the simplest, cheapest, and most effective things you can do to protect your engine. Fresh oil restores lubrication, cleans out all the gunk, keeps temperatures in check, and dramatically extends the life of your vehicle. So, to wrap it all up, skipping oil changes might not seem like a big deal in the short term, but it almost always leads to a massive repair bill or a completely new engine down the line. A few quarts of oil are cheap. A new engine is not. Now that you know what's really happening inside your engine, you can make smarter maintenance choices and keep your car happy and healthy for years to come. Thank you so much for watching this video on car engines and maintenance. If you found this guide helpful, please give it a like. It really helps the channel out and lets me know what kind of content you enjoy seeing. I'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below with any questions you have about your car's engine, or share your own maintenance tips with the community. If you know someone who could benefit from this information, please consider sharing this video with them. Spreading the knowledge helps everyone keep their cars in top shape. And finally, for more educative videos just like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel. You'll get notified of all my future uploads on car engines and their maintenance.